Look, I have had this on my mind all week because we need to address the reports that the Philadelphia Eagles are considering trade options for Jalen Carter, Tanner McKee, Fred Johnson, Kelee Ringo, and Ty Robinson before the November 10th deadline. The front office is weighing these moves, and the sheer inclusion of a cornerstone player like Carter has sent shockwaves through the entire fan base. This is not just a standard roster shuffle, but a potential identity crisis that demands we look closer at the front office strategy. And honestly, the more details come out, the harder it is to ignore what is going on behind the scenes. My name is Lucas, so please smash that like button, subscribe, and drop your name and city in the comments. Let's get into it. The Philadelphia Eagles front office is reportedly weighing trade options for interior defensive lineman Jalen Carter alongside Tanner McKee, Fred Johnson, Kelee Ringo, and Ty Robinson before the November 10th deadline. Carter arrived here as a high-profile draft selection and quickly solidified his reputation as the primary anchor for our defensive front. Because he represents the long-term future of our defense, fans care deeply about his tenure and the stability he brings to the roster. The bottom line here is that the organization is conducting a cold, calculated evaluation of every asset on the team to adjust the salary cap and refine our depth. While these reports remain speculative at this stage, the sheer volume of names circulating suggests a major shift in how the organization plans to build for the long term under Nick Sirianni. The optics of discussing a cornerstone talent like Carter alongside developmental pieces has left many of us feeling unsettled, as the prospect of losing a foundational player forces us to question the stability of our current team identity. We are collectively asking if this represents a strategic retooling or a sign of deeper trouble brewing within the NovaCare complex. The emotional toll on the fan base is evident, as we struggle to reconcile the desire for a championship roster with the reality of potentially parting ways with key contributors. If the front office is truly committed to moving on from such significant talent, we must wonder which other foundational pieces might be on the table once the final roster decisions are made in the coming weeks. If these moves are designed to create immediate financial flexibility, we have to examine whether the current coaching staff is preparing for an aggressive pursuit of veteran free agents, or if this signals an even larger teardown of the defense we have grown to rely on this year. The most shocking element of these trade rumors is that Jalen Carter is being discussed as an asset to be moved barely 2 years after the organization invested such significant draft capital to secure his talents. This entire situation stems from the front office needing to balance high-end salary cap flexibility with a desire to replenish depth positions, a strategy that often forces teams to gamble on the perceived value of their younger players. Historically, this franchise has preferred keeping homegrown stars, yet we have seen past regimes pivot toward aggressive roster churn when they believe the window for contention is closing or shifting under Nick Sirianni. Here is where it gets interesting as we evaluate the internal logic inside the NovaCare complex. Management is likely viewing these 5 players not as individual contributors, but as a collective pool of capital that could be liquidated to acquire veteran support for specific weaknesses elsewhere on the depth chart. By evaluating Tanner McKee and Kelee Ringo alongside someone like Carter, the leadership is clearly testing the market to see if other clubs value these prospects higher than the internal scouting department currently does. This cold, analytical approach is a stark departure from the sentimental roster building we witnessed during previous championship cycles, suggesting that the team is prioritizing long-term fiscal health over immediate sentimental attachments to rising stars. While it feels uncomfortable for us to witness these names being floated, the front office is likely trying to avoid a future cap crunch by moving assets before their individual value depreciates due to injury or inconsistent performance. They are playing a high-stakes game of chess, deciding whether the gamble of trading away a foundational piece provides enough immediate return to keep the Super Bowl window wide open for the duration of this current season. The urgency of these rumors is hitting home because they represent a fundamental departure from the stability we have come to expect at the NovaCare complex. This is not just about shuffling personnel. It is a direct threat to the defensive foundation that we rely on during critical fourth quarters. If the front office decides to move a cornerstone like Jalen Carter, they are essentially signaling a departure from the win-now mentality that define our recent playoff pushes. Here's the thing nobody wants to say. Trading away high-ceiling talent like Carter, McKee, or Ringo forces us to lean heavily on unproven depth, which invites vulnerability against seasoned opponents. From a salary cap perspective, these moves likely aim to clear immediate room, but the cost is a thin roster that lacks the necessary versatility to survive a grueling 17-game schedule. When we look ahead to key matchups against rivals like the New York Giants, having reliable depth is the difference between securing a divisional lead and slipping into the wild card scramble. Every game in the NFC East demands a premium on consistency, and thinning out our defensive interior or secondary rotation creates a dangerous ripple effect across the field. We have to wonder if these moves are being made with the long-term vision of the organization in mind, or if they are desperate measures to balance the books at the expense of our competitive ceiling. Losing players who understand our scheme undermines our standing against the rest of the conference as we chase another championship run. As Philadelphia Eagles fans, we must weigh whether the potential for financial flexibility is actually worth the sacrifice of our team identity during this pivotal campaign. We are watching a high-stakes gamble play out, and the consequences will be felt by every single one of us on Sundays this autumn. Proponents of these potential trades argue that clearing massive cap space through moves involving Jalen Carter or Kelee Ringo could grant our front office the necessary financial flexibility to sign veteran depth across several positions of need. By selling high on talent, the team might secure multiple draft assets, effectively restocking a cupboard that has been depleted by recent high-stakes acquisitions. The part fans are not ready for, however, is the significant risk that comes with dismantling a young, cohesive defensive unit. Trading away a cornerstone like Carter threatens to derail the defensive scheme Nick Sirianni has spent years building, potentially leaving us with a patchwork lineup that lacks chemistry. Industry analysts are divided on the logic here, with some suggesting that moving players like Tanner McKee or Ty Robinson is a standard exercise in roster optimization, while others warn that such volatility could fracture the locker room. It is vital to note that some of these reports seem significantly overblown. Moving a player of Carter's caliber during the season is historically rare and would signal a complete change in organizational philosophy that I find difficult to believe. The way I see it, the front office is likely exploring every possible avenue to maximize our window for contention, but suggesting all 5 of these individuals are on the chopping block feels like speculative noise designed to generate headlines. While we must respect the necessity of sound management, I remain skeptical that such a drastic overhaul of our personnel would yield immediate success. We have seen teams attempt similar resets only to find that the departure of key leaders creates a void that draft picks simply cannot fill overnight. This is a delicate balancing act, and I truly hope the decision-makers realize that the price of consistency is often far higher than the value of extra capital. Looking at the broader trajectory of the franchise, this aggressive approach signals that the Philadelphia Eagles are prioritizing long-term roster sustainability over preserving the status quo. By placing Jalen Carter, Tanner McKee, Fred Johnson, Kelee Ringo, and Ty Robinson in the conversation, the organization is clearly shifting toward a model where no single contract or individual path is considered untouchable. Let's be real, this strategy suggests that Nick Sirianni and the front office are preparing for a massive pivot, favoring total financial flexibility and roster churn to avoid the stagnation that often traps aging championship contenders. As veteran supporters who have weathered many eras of this team, it is natural to feel a sense of unease or even skepticism when foundational pieces are treated as movable assets. You should feel protective of these players because they represent the blood and sweat of our recent scouting efforts. Yet you must also maintain a measured perspective. This uncertainty is not necessarily a sign of failure, but rather a cold, calculated attempt to keep the competitive window wide open for the next several seasons. We should expect more turbulence before the November 10th deadline, as the organization seeks to insulate itself against the salary cap constraints that eventually claim every successful team. Given the potential departures of these 5 players, would you prefer the front office to hold on to Jalen Carter at all costs, or trade him now to maximize our future draft capital? If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. Fly, Eagles, fly. I'll see you in the next one. Before you head out, drop a comment below sharing your own opinion on this defensive dilemma. We truly appreciate all your support, so stay tuned for more exclusive Philadelphia Eagles updates coming your way soon.